They say losing your father is like losing your anchor in the middle of the ocean. You think you're grown, prepared, until the last rope snaps. My name is Rachel Whitman. I'm 35 years old. I run a thriving interior design firm in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm not the type who talks too much. People describe me as calm, steady, someone who always knows how to handle things. But no one teaches you what to do when the man you love most in this world, your father, dies. My father, Richard Whitman, was the cornerstone of our family. He had a warm smile and hands that were always busy fixing or building something, not just homes, but people. I was his oldest child from his first marriage. My mother passed away from cancer when I was still a little girl. After years alone, Dad met and married Diana. She had once been a school teacher, a graceful, polished woman. At 17, I wasn't sure I trusted her. But I didn't dislike her either. We weren't close. But she cared for Dad. I respected that. Diana had 2 children from a previous marriage, Lila, now 31, and Bryce, 28. They grew up under the same roof as me. For a while, I thought we were a well-blended family. He died of a sudden heart attack in March, on his 68th birthday. I remember the call from the hospital. My heart plummeted. I didn't cry right away. I was the steady one, after all. But when I saw him, eyes closed, face still peaceful, I collapsed. Diana hugged me. She whispered in my ear, "Everything will be fine, Rachel. I'll handle the arrangements. Your father left a will. He wanted me to take care of everything." I nodded. I trusted her. In that moment, I didn't want to argue, didn't want to disturb the fragile grief hanging over us. Diana was Dad's legal wife. She knew the process better than I did. "Your father left the Folly Beach house for the family," Diana told me. "We'll hold on to it until everything settles down." The Folly Beach house. The house Dad built brick by brick, where I learned to ride my bike, where my 10th birthday party was held, where Dad and I used to sit for hours on the porch, watching the tide roll in and out. Dad wanted the house to stay in the family, Diana added. He loved that house more than anything. I agreed. "We'll keep it, no matter what." Diana smiled. "Exactly. He trusted me. He knew I'd protect what belongs to this family." After the funeral, I returned to work. Even in grief, I kept busy. I trusted Diana. I trusted she would handle the legal filings, submit the will to probate court, and carry out Dad's wishes. Diana informed me she'd hired a private attorney to process the estate. "I don't want you to worry," she said. "You've got your company to run. You're planning your wedding. Let me take this off your plate." She was right. Business was booming. We had just landed a major hotel chain contract. My fiancé, Andy, and I were planning to marry later that year. "Thank you, Diana. I appreciate it," I replied. If I'd doubted her then, things might have turned out differently. 2 months passed. No updates from the court, no calls from the attorney. Every time I asked, Diana had a reasonable explanation. "The courthouse is swamped." The lawyer said there was a minor hiccup. "We just need to be patient." And I was. I tried. Until one morning in June, I drove to the Folly Beach house. I just wanted to mow the lawn. I didn't want the place looking abandoned. As I turned down the familiar gravel road, I slammed the brakes. Right there on the front lawn, a huge red and white sign. The "For Sale" sign was a slap I never saw coming. I sat frozen in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The wind blew gently through the marsh grass that bordered the property, but all I could hear was the dull roar of my own pulse pounding in my ears. I blinked, once, twice. The sign didn't vanish, the words didn't change, and just beneath it, smaller print that made my stomach twist. Contact. Diana Whitman, my stepmother. I slammed the car door shut behind me and marched up the driveway. The gravel crunched beneath my feet, a sound that had once meant homecoming. Now it felt like the ticking countdown of a betrayal. The front porch looked exactly the same as when Dad had been alive. The rocking chair, the faded doormat that read, "Welcome to Folly Paradise." I paused. For a split second, I wanted to believe this was some mistake, some miscommunication, but deep down, the ache in my chest told me better. I knocked. No answer. The house key still hung from my keychain. I used it. The familiar scent of sea air mixed with lavender greeted me, but it didn't feel comforting anymore. It felt staged. The living room was unnaturally clean. Gone were the family photos that had once lined the mantel. No picture of Dad fishing with me when I was 8. No Christmas morning snapshots. No evidence that I had ever belonged here. In their place, brochures, property flyers, realtor business cards, a glossy binder labeled Exclusive Coastal Listings. I opened it with trembling fingers. Page 1. Folly Beach Gym. Turnkey ready, priced to move. Photographs of the house's rooms gleamed from the glossy paper. My bedroom, Dad's office, the screened-in porch where we'd shared coffee and long talks. I turned another page, notes scribbled in Diana's handwriting. Potential tear down. Lot value high. Investors interested. My breath hitched. She wasn't just selling the house. She was selling our family's memories, our history, our roots. Rachel? I spun around. Diana stood in the doorway, grocery bags in hand. She wore a breezy linen dress and oversized sunglasses, as though she were heading to a garden party instead of dismantling a legacy. "What are you doing here?" she asked, voice tight. "I came to mow the lawn," I said. But instead, I found this. I gestured toward the binder, the sign. Her gaze flicked to the materials, then back to me. No shame, just cool calculation. "I meant to call you," she said. "I didn't want you to be blindsided." "Too late for that." She set the groceries down. "Look, Rachel, the taxes on this property are astronomical. Maintenance is a nightmare. The market's hot right now. It's the practical decision. Did Dad agree to this?" The question came out sharper than I intended. Diana's eyes narrowed slightly. "Your father wanted what's best for all of us. He trusted me to make hard choices." "Hard choices? Or profitable ones?" Her mouth pressed into a thin line. "I'm not trying to cut you out," Diana said, voice softening. "But you have your own life now, your business, your fiancé, this house. It's just a building. It's my home." She sighed, as if I were a stubborn child. "The proceeds will be split fairly. You'll get your share once everything's finalized." "I want to see the will," I said. That made her pause. "It's with my attorney," she replied quickly. "These things take time. 2 months and no filings? No contact from probate court? Diana, something's not right." Her mask slipped for just a heartbeat, a flicker of annoyance. Or was it fear? "I'll have my lawyer call you," she said, already moving toward the kitchen. "There's no need for dramatics." But there was. Because in that moment, I realized she was stonewalling me. And if there was one thing Dad taught me about negotiations, when people deflect, they're hiding something. That night, I called Lila. She didn't answer. I left a voicemail, calm, measured, asking to talk. No response. I texted Bryce. Same result. They were avoiding me. Or worse, they were complicit. My phone buzzed. A message from Diana. "Please don't stir up unnecessary conflict. We all want what's best." My stomach churned. She wasn't just selling the house. She was erasing me. The next morning, I called the probate court. There was no record of my father's will being submitted. I contacted the attorney Diana claimed to have hired. "Due to client confidentiality, I can't discuss this matter," the receptionist told me. Translation: stonewalling. Dad's voice echoed in my memory again. "Trust your instincts, Rachel. When something smells wrong, it usually is." I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the family photo I kept on the wall. Dad, younger then. Me, perched on his knee. A sunny day at Folly Beach. I took a deep breath and picked up my phone. "Mr. Levinson?" I said when Dad's old attorney answered. "I need your help. It's about the Folly Beach house, and my stepmother." His pause was brief but telling. "Tell me everything," he said. When Mr. Levinson told me, "Tell me everything," a dam finally broke. I poured it all out. The for sale sign, Diana's refusal to produce the will, the sudden silence from Lila and Bryce, the attorney who wouldn't return my calls, the house already being marketed to investors. He listened without interruption. When I finally paused, his voice was steady. Rachel, I believe you. And more importantly, your father believed in transparency. He wouldn't have left things this messy, not unless someone made them messy. That's what I'm afraid of, I whispered. He sighed. All right. First step, let's confirm whether any version of Richard's will has been filed or altered. If not, we may already be dealing with fraud. The next morning, Mr. Levinson met me at his office. It was a modest building downtown, lined with bookshelves groaning under decades of legal volumes and case files. On his desk, he had already spread out a manila folder marked Whitman Richard. This is your father's original will, he said, executed 5 years ago. It leaves the Folly Beach property and all other personal real estate assets to you. Specific language, to my daughter, Rachel Whitman, in recognition of her dedication to the maintenance and stewardship of these properties. Tears stung my eyes. That sounds like him. Yes. Now, here's the troubling part. According to the probate records, or lack thereof, Diana has not submitted this will, nor has she registered any subsequent amendments. So, the will is essentially invisible to the court. Exactly, and that's illegal. I nodded, pulse racing. Can we force it into probate ourselves? Yes, and we'll do it fast, but we also need to prepare for a worst-case scenario, which is, he tapped the folder, that Diana forged a new will or codicil, perhaps with falsified witnesses or even a dead notary. It happens more often than you'd think. My stomach clenched. How do we prove that? By getting ahead of her. Mr. Levinson assigned one of his junior associates, Julia, to help me pull financial records, court filings, and public notices. For 3 days, I barely slept. By day, I combed through property listings, banking statements, and any public records tied to Diana. By night, I scoured emails, family group chats, anything that could show a timeline. The pieces started to align in a chilling pattern. 2 weeks after Dad's death, Diana had opened a separate bank account under Whitman Family Holdings LLC. She had listed herself as the sole managing member. Large withdrawals had begun. Home staging services, realtor fees, and suspicious transfers labeled investment consulting. But the biggest red flag came from a notary public log. Julia returned one afternoon, face pale. Rachel, the notary who supposedly validated Diana's new will, he passed away 2 years ago. My knees buckled. I gripped the edge of Mr. Levinson's desk. Fraud, he said grimly. Textbook. I tried calling Lila again, left another voicemail. Please, Lila. I don't want this to become a war. Just talk to me. Dad would want us to work this out. No reply. Bryce's number had already been disconnected. They were burying their heads. Or worse, aiding Diana. Either way, they were lost to me for now. Julia discovered that Diana had already attended 2 closed-door meetings with potential property developers. They want to buy the Folly Beach house for a multi-unit condo project, Julia explained. Diana stands to make almost double the property's market value, if she sells fast. Of course, I muttered. She's trying to cash out before the court can intervene. Exactly. Mr. Levinson leaned forward. Rachel, there's another option. If you want to protect the house without a prolonged legal battle. What is it? We can buy it out from under her, quietly, through a third party, before she completes any sale. My mind raced. I thought of Dad's lessons. Always have a plan B and a plan C. I already have an LLC, I said. For my design business investments, I can use it to make an anonymous offer. That's precisely what I was hoping you'd say. That evening, I called Alice, my longtime realtor and a friend who had kept my business dealings discreet for years. Alice, I began, I need your help. It's personal. When I explained the situation, she didn't hesitate. We'll draft an offer tomorrow, she said. I'll make sure it looks like a standard cash buyer. No ties to you. Thank you, and Alice, yes? Make sure the closing date is fast. She won't wait around. That night, I stood outside the Folly Beach house, the moon casting silver across the waves. I remembered Dad teaching me to fish off the pier, how he used to say, patience catches the big ones. I closed my eyes. I'm being patient, Dad. But now I'm fighting. I turned toward the house, my house, and walked away, ready to reclaim what was mine. The next morning, I met Alice at her office. She was already waiting, crisp blazer on, her laptop open, and a notepad filled with scribbles. "I've drafted an offer," she said, sliding the papers toward me. "Cash, no contingencies. I used your LLC, Seabrook Horizons, right?" I nodded. "Yes. That name's never been connected to me publicly." "Good. I also ran comps in the area. The market's hot, but we can make an aggressive offer slightly above asking to guarantee Diana takes the bait." I scanned the offer details. Alice had thought of everything. A 45-day close, earnest money ready, inspections waived. "We'll submit this today," she continued. "But Rachel, once we're under contract, things will move fast. There's no turning back." "There never was," I said quietly. For 3 days, my nerves were raw. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart leapt. Alice kept me updated. "She's reviewing the offer. Her realtor seems eager. They think it's a lucky break." On the 4th day, Alice's name flashed across my screen. I answered on the first ring. "She accepted," Alice announced. "Congratulations, Rachel. You're under contract." I exhaled sharply, tension draining from my shoulders. But it wasn't over. This was just the opening move. Mr. Levinson advised we proceed with a standard due diligence period, even though we planned to waive contingencies. "It buys us time," he said, "and lets us monitor any last-minute moves Diana might make." Julia, Mr. Levinson's junior associate, hired a private investigator to discreetly track Diana's activities. "She's attending multiple meetings downtown," Julia reported. "Real estate developers, title company reps. Looks like she's trying to secure a side deal, possibly selling to a third party despite being under contract with us." "Is that legal?" I asked, number. "But she may be desperate enough to try." "Then we'll be ready," I replied. A week into the contract, Bryce finally called. His voice was tight, defensive. "Rachel, what are you doing? Mom says you're interfering with the sale. This doesn't concern you." "It concerns Dad's legacy," I said calmly, "and the fact that the will names me as the heir." "Mom said that will's outdated. She said Dad changed it before he passed." "Then why hasn't she produced the new will? Why hasn't it been filed with the court?" Silence. "Bryce," I continued, "I don't want to fight with you, but I won't stand by while you and Lila let Diana erase me." He hung up. I didn't bother calling Lila again. Despite waiving the inspection contingency, I scheduled a formal walkthrough. Alice accompanied me. Diana's realtor met us at the property. "Owner won't be present," he said stiffly. "That's fine." Stepping inside the house was like walking through a ghost's memories. The living room still held the indentations where Dad's recliner had rested. The kitchen counters bore faint knife marks from years of family meals. The screened-in porch, my sanctuary, still smelled faintly of sea salt and cedar. I paused at the base of the staircase. "You okay?" Alice asked gently. "Yes, just remembering." I moved room to room, documenting everything, not just for legal purposes, but to preserve the memories. Julia's investigation uncovered more damning details. "Diana's trying to leverage a private loan using the Folly Beach property as collateral," she explained. "But under contract law, she can't, not without disclosing the pending sale." "So she's committing lender fraud, too." "Yes, and there's more. She moved $250,000 into an offshore account last week." I clenched my fists. "We need to alert the court," I said. Mr. Levinson nodded. "We will. But timing is key. If we act too soon, she might sabotage the sale. We need to let her believe she's still in control." "Until the closing," I whispered. As the closing date neared, the tension became suffocating. Every email from Alice, every call from Julia, every sleepless night replaying my last conversation with Dad. "If anything happens to me, protect what we built. Don't let anyone, family or not, take it from you." I woke early the morning of the closing, the sunrise casting golden light across Charleston Harbor. I dressed deliberately, navy suit, low heels, the pearl earrings Dad had given me after my college graduation. Alice picked me up. "Are you ready?" she asked. "I've been ready since the day I saw that for sale sign." We drove in silence, the weight of what was about to happen pressing down like a thundercloud. At the closing attorney's office, the conference room was prepped. Alice sat beside me. Mr. Levinson flanked my other side. Across the table, Diana, flawless as ever in a designer blouse and gold jewelry. Her realtor, a title company representative, Lila and Bryce. Diana didn't acknowledge me. She didn't have to. She thought she'd won. I folded my hands, steadying my breath. "Let's begin," the attorney announced. The conference room's air felt heavy, like a storm ready to break. Diana sat poised, confident. Her realtor leaned forward, shuffling documents. Lila tapped her nails against the table nervously. Bryce kept his eyes fixed on his phone. The closing attorney cleared his throat. "We're here today to finalize the sale of 114 Seabrook Avenue, the Folly Beach property, to Seabrook Horizons LLC. As agreed upon, the seller is Diana Whitman." Alice's expression was calm, but I could feel the tension vibrating under the surface. "Let's begin by reviewing the final disclosures," the attorney continued. "Then we'll proceed to signatures." As the document circulated, Diana signed each page swiftly, her pen strokes sharp and assured. She didn't look at me once. She thought she had outmaneuvered me. Sold the house, pocketed the profit, cut me out of my father's legacy, but she had no idea what was coming. Alice nudged my elbow gently as the purchase agreement reached me. "Ready?" I nodded. "More than ever." I signed. "Before we proceed to deed transfer," the attorney said, "the buyer has requested to be present for final confirmation." Diana frowned. "They're not here?" "Actually," Alice said smoothly, "they are." I stood up slowly. Diana's eyes finally met mine. Confusion, then disbelief, then fear. "Rachel? What are you doing?" "Purchasing my father's house," I replied calmly. "Through Seabrook Horizons, LLC." The room went still. Bryce's phone slid from his hand and clattered onto the table. Lila froze mid-tap. "That's impossible," Diana hissed. "You can't—" "I can," I said. And I did. Mr. Levinson rose, placing a thick file on the table. "Additionally, before this transaction finalizes, we have new evidence for the court's consideration." Diana's face drained of color. "What are you talking about?" "Your failure to submit Richard Whitman's valid will, your creation of a forged codicil witnessed by a deceased notary, the unlawful attempts to sell the property while under contract, and recent financial activity indicating lender fraud and asset concealment." "You can't prove—" "We can," Julia said from the doorway, stepping in with a court officer beside her. "This is outrageous!" Diana shouted. "Rachel, you don't understand what you're doing." "I understand perfectly," I replied. "You tried to erase me. You tried to steal my father's legacy, but you underestimated one thing." "And what's that?" Diana sneered. "That I learned from him." The court officer stepped forward. "Mrs. Whitman, you're hereby served. A motion has been filed freezing all proceeds from this sale pending investigation." Diana's chair scraped loudly as she stood, panic flashing across her face. "This isn't happening," she whispered. "It is," Bryce muttered, finally lifting his eyes. "Mom, is it true?" Diana opened her mouth. Closed it. Words failed her. Lila burst into tears. Alice leaned closer to me. "Well played!" The closing attorney, pale but professional, cleared his throat. "Given the circumstances and pending the court's ruling, the transfer to Seabrook Horizons LLC will proceed. The funds will be held in escrow." I signed the final deed transfer. My hand was steady, my breath calm. Diana sat, defeated, tears pricking the corners of her eyes. But I felt no triumph, only relief. This wasn't revenge. It was justice. As the others gathered their belongings, Mr. Levinson turned to me. "Your father would be proud." "I hope so," I whispered. I met Diana's gaze one last time. "This could have ended differently, if you had honored his wishes." She said nothing, and then I left the room, the weight of years lifting with every step. The courtroom air was cool and smelled faintly of old wood polish. It had been 3 weeks since the closing. 3 weeks since I bought my father's house and exposed Diana's fraud. Now, Diana stood before the judge. Her once flawless appearance had faded. Gone were the designer blouses and gold jewelry. She wore a simple navy suit, her hair pulled back tightly, trying, and failing, to convey control. Lila and Bryce sat behind her. Bryce looked haunted. Lila gripped a tissue, twisting it in her lap until it nearly shredded. Mr. Levinson stood beside me at the petitioner's table. Julia was beside him, her binder thick with evidence. The judge reviewed the findings quietly. The room was silent, except for the soft rustle of papers. Finally, he spoke. Mrs. Whitman, the court finds sufficient evidence of willful fraud, forgery, and attempted misappropriation of estate assets. All proceeds from the attempted sale are hereby forfeited pending criminal investigation. The Folly Beach property legally belongs to Rachel Whitman, as per the original will. Diana's shoulders sagged. Furthermore, the judge continued, this court advises the district attorney's office to proceed with charges at their discretion. A sharp gasp escaped Lila. I closed my eyes. Relief washed over me, bittersweet but undeniable. After the hearing, Bryce approached me alone in the hallway. Rachel, I didn't know. Mom said Dad changed everything before he died. She convinced us. His voice cracked. Genuine regret. Maybe too late, but real. You should have asked, I said gently. I'm sorry. He lowered his head. I don't expect you to forgive me. It's not about forgiveness, I replied. It's about accountability. For all of us. Bryce nodded. His eyes were red. Lila never approached me. She left the courthouse quickly, wiping tears. The for sale sign was long gone. So were the realtor flyers. No more strangers walking through my memories. Just me. And the home Dad built with love and intention. I unlocked the front door. The scent of sea salt and cedar greeted me again. This time it didn't feel like a trap. It felt like peace. I walked room to room. The living room, where Dad taught me to play chess. The kitchen, where he burned pancakes every Sunday morning. The screened-in porch, where he once said, "Whatever happens, this house is yours." Your anchor. I paused by the staircase, hand brushing the worn banister. I kept my promise, Dad, I whispered. I hired a local carpenter to restore the treehouse Dad and I built decades ago. It was weathered but salvageable, a symbol of resilience. I updated the interior carefully, keeping the essence of the home intact. Fresh paint, refinished hardwood, new furnishings that blended old charm with quiet elegance. The house wasn't just property. It was history. It was love. It was survival. Alice stopped by one afternoon, admiring the updates. You've done more than protect this place, she said. You've honored it. That was always the goal, she smiled. And Diana, awaiting trial. I've left that to the prosecutors now. In the months that followed, I declined every media request. I didn't want the scandal sensationalized. I wanted healing. Mr. Levinson finalized the estate. The Folly Beach house was now legally, unequivocally mine. Bryce wrote me a letter, an apology, an explanation, a hope for some future reconciliation. I wasn't ready yet. Maybe one day. Lila stayed silent. That, too, was her choice. Andy is my fiancé, and I postponed the wedding, not out of sorrow, but because we wanted to rebuild without shadows hanging over us. We would marry in the garden of the Folly Beach house next spring, the home Dad built, the home I reclaimed. Spring arrived with warm breezes and the scent of jasmine curling through the air. The Folly Beach house had never looked better. The garden was in full bloom, roses, hydrangeas, and the azaleas Dad once planted with me when I was a child. The treehouse, now restored, stood tall, a silent monument to resilience. Inside, the home was alive with color and light. Every room told a story, not of betrayal, not of greed, but of endurance, healing, and love. Andy and I stood in the backyard, reviewing plans for the wedding arch. He squeezed my hand. Your dad would be proud. I hope so, I whispered. The week before the wedding, Bryce reached out again, this time in person. He arrived mid-morning, a bouquet of simple wildflowers in hand, flowers Dad had always preferred over store-bought arrangements. "I'm not here to ask for anything," he began. "Just to tell you I'm working with the prosecutors. I've provided all the financial records Mom tried to hide." I studied him carefully. Bryce looked different. The arrogance was gone. What remained was a man trying to make amends. "Thank you," I said simply. "I know it doesn't fix the damage," he added, "but I want you to know I won't let history repeat itself. Not with Lila. Not with me." "That's your responsibility now," I replied. "I've drawn my boundaries. I won't lower them again." He nodded, accepting the weight of my words. 2 days later, a letter arrived. No return address, neat handwriting. "Rachel, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I stayed silent when I should have spoken. I let fear rule me. I chose comfort over truth. I won't intrude on your life again. But I wanted you to know, I've left Charleston. I'm starting over, and I'm taking accountability for my choices. I hope, one day, you can find peace. Lila." I folded the letter and placed it in a small cedar box where I kept other family mementos. Not to dwell on the past, but to remember the lessons it had taught me. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and bright. Friends and family gathered in the garden. White chairs lined the freshly mown lawn. The arch was draped in flowing fabric and clusters of the same wildflowers Bryce had brought, a quiet acknowledgement of growth and change. As I walked down the aisle, I felt the weight of the past fall away. Each step carried me not just toward Andy, but toward a future I had forged with determination and grace. At the altar, Andy smiled. "We made it." "We did," I replied, and in the front row, an empty chair held a single framed photograph of my father. His kind eyes and steady smile a silent blessing. The ceremony was simple, honest, a reflection of the life Andy and I were building. As we exchanged vows, I felt not just love, but triumph. Triumph over deceit, over betrayal, over the attempts to diminish me. I had reclaimed my home. I had reclaimed my family's honor. Most importantly, I had reclaimed myself. The morning after the wedding, sunlight poured through the windows, golden and soft. I lay beside Andy, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing and the distant sound of waves crashing against the shore. For the first time in years, there was no fear waiting in the shadows. No court summons, no betrayals, just peace. I slipped out of bed, wrapped myself in a light robe, and padded barefoot to the screened-in porch. Outside, the tide rolled in, steady as always. My father used to say the ocean kept time better than any clock. I sank into Dad's old rocking chair, restored but still creaking in the same familiar way. The past year played out in my mind like chapters of a long novel. Grief, betrayal, courage, justice. I had been tested in ways I never imagined. I had been underestimated, manipulated, and pushed to the brink. But I had refused to break. Instead, I had fought. Not with rage, but with patience. Not with revenge, but with truth. Be patient. Be smart. Be steady. Dad's words had guided me every step of the way. I smiled, brushing away a tear. "I kept my promise, Dad." Andy and I spent the following months blending our lives into the Folly Beach house. We preserved its soul while breathing new life into every corner. The kitchen where Dad burned pancakes on Sunday mornings. The living room where he taught me to play chess. The treehouse in the backyard, now fully rebuilt, stronger than ever. Our home wasn't just a building, it was a living legacy. The community embraced me. Neighbors who had once watched silently now offered support. Friends brought bread, seedlings, and shared stories of Dad. Inspired by my journey, I founded a mentorship program, Anchor Women, a space where women facing estate battles or family betrayals could find legal advice, counseling, and, most importantly, solidarity. Each success story reinforced my belief. Standing firm mattered, not just for myself, for others too. One young woman, Danielle, had been days away from losing her late grandmother's home due to forged documents. With my team's help, she not only saved the property, but also gained the confidence to pursue a law degree. Watching her thrive was more fulfilling than any courtroom victory. Bryce followed through on his promises. He cooperated fully with prosecutors. His testimony was instrumental in securing Diana's conviction. Diana was sentenced to multiple counts of fraud, forgery, and attempted theft. She would spend years behind bars. Bryce and I maintained a cautious relationship. He respected my boundaries but kept in touch, updating me on his efforts to rebuild his life. Then, unexpectedly, a letter arrived from Lila. Rachel, I left Charleston as you know. I moved west and started over. I work now with a nonprofit helping young women escape financial abuse. It's my attempt to make amends, not to you directly because I know I don't deserve that, but to others. I'm truly sorry. Always. Lila. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in my cedar box. Not to dwell, but to remember. On the first anniversary of reclaiming the house, Andy and I hosted a small gathering. Friends, Alice. Mr. Levinson, Julia, Danielle. We stood in the garden beneath the wedding arch, now adorned with fresh blooms. We toasted to resilience, to integrity, to the power of truth. As dusk settled, I glanced toward the treehouse. It stood tall, a symbol of endurance and growth. That evening, after everyone left, I returned to the porch. I opened my cedar box. Inside, Dad's handwritten note, Bryce's apology, Lila's letter, a photo from my wedding day. I whispered into the night, "Your legacy is safe, Dad. Not just the house, the values, the strength, the family you taught me to protect." The waves responded, steady and enduring. Years later, Andy and I welcomed a daughter, Elizabeth Whitman, not named for anyone from the past, but because Elizabeth and resilience had defined my journey. As she grew, we told her the stories of the house, not the betrayals, but the victories, the lessons. One evening, as we watched the sunset, she asked, "Mom, will this be my house someday?" I smiled. "If you want it, but more importantly, it will always be your anchor, just like it was mine." And in that moment, I knew the cycle of strength, love, and integrity would continue. The legacy was secure, forever.